Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the 700 Club. I don't know about you. If any of you have seen those basketball finals, I have never seen basketball like that in all of my life. I thought Michael Jordan was incredible, but these guys are just awesome. They were running full speed up and down the court and dumping in three-point baskets. I mean, it is incredible. And Golden State looks like they've still got the edge, but LeBron James is... their team lost, and they still scored about 39 points. I mean, the guy's fabulous, but I have never seen anything like it. They have taken the game of basketball to a level that nobody ever thought was possible. So I think they got to, I'm not sure how many more games are left, but so far Cleveland has not been exactly scoring the way they would like to be, but it's amazing. So back to politics. The president feels completely and totally vindicated. That's what Trump's lawyers said after former FBI Director James Comey said he told the president privately he wasn't under investigation.
Comey released a statement before his testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee today, but both sides still have tough questions for him. National security correspondent Eric Rosales brings us the story from Washington.
James Comey says in a released statement that President Trump repeatedly pressured him to publicly announce that he was not personally under federal investigation in connection with the Justice Department's investigation into Russian meddling in last year's election. According to Comey's own statement of record, on 3 separate occasions he told the president he is not under investigation. The first on a January 6th briefing, then at a January 27th dinner, then on a March 30th phone call. During that call, Comey says the president asked him what could be done to lift the cloud over him from the investigation. The president told Comey that the Russia investigation was hurting his ability to govern. Comey replied that we were investigating the matter as quickly as we could. Comey then said, I explained that we had briefed the leadership of Congress on exactly which individuals we were investigating, and we had told those congressional leaders that we were not personally investigating President Trump. I reminded him I had previously told him that. He repeatedly told me we need to get that fact out. Comey never did, so the president did through Twitter and interviews.
I said, if it's possible, would you let me know, am I under investigation? He said, you are not under investigation.
But what about the question of obstruction of justice and the investigation into Trump's then National Security Advisor, Mike Flynn? Comey said a conversation took place on February 14th in the Oval Office. After a meeting that dealt with counterterrorism, Comey says the president wanted to speak with him alone. Comey states the president began by saying, I want to talk about Mike Flynn. The president said Flynn hadn't done anything wrong in speaking with the Russians, but he had to let him go because he had misled the vice president. Comey states the president then said, I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go. Comey says he agreed Flynn was a good guy, but, quote, I did not say I would let this go. But Comey states he believes the president was requesting that the FBI drop any investigation of Flynn in connection with the false statements about the conversations he had with the Russian ambassador. And that's the reason he wrote the memo to document the conversation. But Comey does not accuse the president of obstruction of justice. A source close to the president told CBN News that the statement of record by Comey is anticlimactic because it's nothing new. In Comey's statement, it says nothing about his firing, but it does say that he thought he had a job for a while because the president called him loyal. Eric Rosales, CBN News.
Thanks, Eric. The thing is, you've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's something called misprision of felony. If you are a public official and you know a felony has been committed, you are under obligation under the law to report such a thing to the appropriate authorities. In the case of FBI director, it'd be his responsibility to report it to the Attorney General or to some judge. That's his responsibility. But it was never done. And so what Comey is saying, of course, it couldn't be obstruction of justice. If it was, then I'm guilty, because he didn't do it. But he wrote a memo to his buddies in the FBI, and they stirred it around a little bit. But I tell you, there's something else more important I want to talk about with Mr. Comey, and with us now is Senator Mike Lee. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which heard testimony from Comey last month. And Senator Lee has got a terrific book out called Written Out of History that talks about some of the forgotten founders. Senator, it's a pleasure to have you with us back on the 700 Club.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's good to be with you.
Let me ask you one question, and I think Mr. Comey seems to think the FBI is independent of any of the civilian elected officials in the government, like it's an independent agency reporting to no one. Is that your understanding of the government as we know it?
It's not, and in fact, the person who holds this position is a political appointee who serves at the pleasure of the president, meaning that person can be replaced at any time for any reason the president deems sufficient.
Well, the reporting chain is to the Attorney General, isn't it? I mean, he's not just out there doing his thing on his own, is he?
Yeah, that's right. There's a chain of reporting that goes through the Attorney General, and ultimately it's the president who has the discretion to terminate at any time for any reason the president deems sufficient the FBI director. And so it's not as if we have an interbranch thing going on here, nor is it the case that this person stands as the head of an independent agency that is outside the chain of accountability to the President of the United States.
Well, the Wall Street Journal had an editorial today saying essentially one of the reasons that he ought to go is because he seems to think that he is independent of anybody. I mean, he says, well, I knew the Attorney General was going to recuse himself, therefore, or this is a case that no good attorney would try to bring to trial. I mean, what is he doing? He seems to be usurping the role of the Attorney General as well.
You know, that's what I have a lot of questions about to this very day. Remember when he held that press conference on July 5th, 2016? I remember it well. I'm sure you do, too. As a former federal prosecutor myself, I kept asking myself the question, why on earth is this a function of the FBI? Why on earth is the FBI director, number one, making the prosecutorial decision, number two, holding a press conference about that decision? This should have been made by Attorney General Loretta Lynch, or in the event of her recusal on this or any other issue, whoever was the acting Attorney General, or someone at the Department of Justice. This was not a thing to be done by the FBI director. To this day, I don't think we have clear answers on why he was in that position.
Do you see anything that's come forth so far that indicates that the Trump campaign was complicit with the Russians in some kind of nefarious plot?
Not only have I not seen anything to support that conclusion, Democrats I know who have seen a whole lot of classified information on this, more than I have indicated that they haven't seen anything to support that conclusion. So if something's out there, I haven't seen it, no one I know has seen it, and as far as I know, it might not exist.
You know, Jeff Sessions is such a highly regarded person, but didn't he leave the president sort of naked by recusing himself and allowing this special prosecutor to be named without the president's approval?
Well, look, the moment Attorney General Sessions saw that he could have a potential conflict on this, he wanted to make sure that everything was kept in its proper order and that he and the department would remain above reproach. And so he made the decision to recuse himself. This is a personal decision, and it's an important decision to make. I think Jeff Sessions probably erred on the side of caution, which is probably a good thing to do. The fact is, I don't think there's anything about this special counsel that's going to result in any fireworks. I don't think there's any there. I haven't seen it. I don't know anyone who has seen it.
I'm supposed to talk about your book, but I have to ask you, you're being considered for the potential Supreme Court because you have a tremendous understanding of the law and the principles of federalism. Is that better than being a senator if you were offered such a post?
Look, I'm a lifelong student of the law. I've been attending Supreme Court arguments since I was 10 years old. It was something I thought was interesting. So if the question is whether if I were asked by the President of the United States to consider something like that, of course I would. Of course I would. I'd be honored. Well,
I think a lot of people would be honored if you were on the bench. Let's talk about your book. This is such a well-read, interesting book. There was a gentleman in there that you pointed out that was so important to the Constitution and to the framing of our country. Clary, you want to talk about him?
Yes. So I think you might be referring to Canasatego, the Iroquois Indian chief. He was a member of the Onondaga tribe, and he taught Benjamin Franklin about this very important but long neglected constitutional principle we call federalism. It's what is embodied in the 10th Amendment. It says that the federal government governs as to a few national things, distinctively national things. Everything else, which includes most powers associated with government, should be left to the states, respectively, or to the people. This did not come to us directly from Europe. This did not come to us from our English forebears. This came to us through Native Americans, through Canasatego to Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin then passed this along to the other founding fathers. He's one of the reasons why I wrote this book, Written Out of History, because we've written out a whole lot of forgotten founders for the simple reason that they don't fit our modern progressive narrative of a big, all-powerful federal government. We need to restore these principles and these teachings, these stories especially, to the American people.
There was a black woman that's so interesting. You want to tell us about her?
Yes. You're referring to Mum Bett. Mum Bett, also known as Elizabeth Freeman,
yes,
was a slave in Massachusetts. She was present at the home of her master, Colonel John Ashley, when something called the Sheffield Declaration was authored. The Sheffield Declaration recognized that all human beings are free and equal in the eyes of God and in a state of nature. That Sheffield Declaration, later put into the Massachusetts Constitution, written by John Adams, adopted this same mindset, adopted this as a principle of law. After that Massachusetts Constitution took effect in 1780, she realized it was there. She retained counsel, a lawyer named Sedgwick, who fought for and ultimately won her freedom in court. And by doing that, she set the stage for all other slaves eventually gaining their freedom in America. It would take a long time, but it recognized that these rights come from Almighty God, from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who views all of us as free and equal.
Well, I tell you, it's a fabulous book. It's a terrific read. You're a great author. I have enjoyed it tremendously, reading these people who were written out of history by Senator Mike Lee, where this is available wherever books are sold, and I hope you get a copy. It's really very interesting. Have you seen it yet?
No, but
well, I'll give you a copy right now.
You are giving it such a rave review that I'm kind of wanting it over on my side.
It is excellent. I've read some of them. They're very ponderous. This thing reads beautifully, and it's exciting to learn about. And Senator, thank you for being with us again.
Great interview.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.